supportive element in this struggle for our nation. Today we'll tackle different issues that will range from some of the issues that were tackled on the floor and generally events that have been happening in the nation, including the elections in Kawambwa. We'll do a commentary on those. And I think there will also be commentary on, as I said, on the statements by ministers, and especially one on high is the one to do with the sale of mine. I don't know if it's a sale or transaction, something like that. That has also to be talked about. So for now, we are going to allow Honorable Chela Moshe, the chair lady for PF, to start the borrowing. And I think she's going to address issues on conditions of living, vis-a-vis electricity tariffs and many other factors, and linking them to what we earn as people in Zambia and our disposal.
Okay. Thank you very much, our colleagues in the media. I want to also recognize the high table, our leadership from the Patriotic Front. And may I take this opportunity to sincerely congratulate our member under Tonse, Mr. Dunstan Mwansa, and for successfully filing in his nomination. We are glad that this time ECZ behaved itself. So a big congratulations to him, and we expect a win. Kawambwa was a PF seat, and I'm calling upon every patriotic seat. We need to retain our seat, and I'm also calling upon every other member to go into Kawambwa and campaign and ensure that we retain that seat. I'm also calling upon the members of Parliament. Parliament will rise soon. Let us all go back to Kawambwa and retain that seat in honor of our dear brother who is incarcerated at maximum prison, Honorable Chilangwa. That, I think, is the only honorable thing to do on his behalf, retain the seat. Colleagues in the media, members of the public, I'm a very, very sad person this morning. And I will just highlight a few issues that really, really touched me, and I was not really aware. The issue of ZESCO. I had a very rude shock 2 days ago when I discovered that 500 kwacha, which previously would take us into almost a month in terms of units, will only take us a few hours. When you buy units for 500 kwacha, within 4 hours, they are gone, because 500 kwacha now translates in almost 60 units in terms of the units that we purchase through ZESCO, which I think is inhuman, it's unthinkable, and we are told that our civil servants have had an increment of 500 kwacha. 200 kwacha. Mwebantu bakwalesa, how do you survive under such pathetic conditions? You cannot survive. Fine. They are saying we are load shedding. Now power has come. We are getting power. We've had power for the last 5 days. But it's as good as we've had no power. Because we're almost in every other 3-4 hours you purchase. I'm appealing to this government, and I'm appealing to the Zambian people. These are the things that we talked about in the campaigns. We have to be realistic, even in terms of increment. Minister of Energy, this is uncalled for. You are taking us back to ancient times. You know that even as much as we have solar, as much as we have gensets, we cannot power our geysers. We cannot cook that. Even now, the excuse that government will give us is that we are providing electricity in the homes. You are not providing electricity in the homes, because where are we going to get the money? Almost every other 3 days, you have to purchase units for 3,000 kwacha. When our pay has just been stagnant, cost of living but salary is stagnant. It is very unfair, very inhuman, it's unthinkable. I've never get to where we are today. Last time I talked about human dignity. When we are talking about human dignity, some of these things actually lie in human dignity. When you deprived your own citizens of actually electricity is a necessity. It's not a privilege, it's a necessity, looking at the times that we're living in. Life has become so hard, for sure, for you. And where are we even going to start cooking? Because the malasha has been banned. So it's like every other corner where Zambians would want to breathe, we are being squeezed. Where are you even getting this mathematics? The more you buy, the less that you are given. I bought units for 97 units last week. The more I buy for 500, the number is coming down. What kind of mathematics and what kind of torture is this? Surely, where are we even going to get the money? It's time that the Zambian people, we have to arise, colleagues. There's enough of this government. We cannot go on living like this. We have the cash for work. Cash for work, duplication of labor. We have, for example, in my constituency, you are having vulnerable mothers go in those drainages and dig those drainages. Where are the council workers who are being paid? Where are the council workers who are being... People are getting free money. Our workers are getting... And some of the roads, mind you, some of these drainages are on contract. Then you again go and give vulnerable people, because you know they have no say, they have nothing to do. You are going to go and say cash for work. Human dignity, again, is very, very, very important. Today we are seeing the code track. In almost every district, thousands of people are running to see the code track. And government is cheering. They are seeing it for the first time. We should be worried as a country. We should be worried as a nation. That is unaccounted for labor. It's just showing that a lot of people are unemployed, a lot of people are hungry. Because if you are employed and people have work to do, who's going to line up in the road and go and watch a code track? This should call for worry for government. It should really call for worry for government that this is how much the vulnerability levels have actually skyrocketed in this country, where every district you have thousands of people lining up during the day when people are supposed to be productive. Shame on this government. It is really, really, really sad, and I call upon every mother, every woman out there, we must arise and begin to talk about issues that are affecting the welfare, the well-being of our own people. We have a sad nation at the moment. Everyone you meet is sad. Everyone you meet is troubled. Everyone you meet is hungry. No one has ever, you meet in the streets or even in your home, will say, I'm comfortable, I'm happy. And today we have government praising. It's either somebody is complaining or they are sick, they are vulnerable or whatever. It is a very sad nation. And I want to call up the Christians in this nation. It's time that we got on our knees. We need to pray for this nation. We are under a serious attack. We are under a serious demon that is hovering around this nation. And if we're not careful, the 10 years that we're talking about going back will be 100 years of disintegrating into a society that is so vulnerable that we will not even know each other's names. So for me, my appeal is to the Minister of Mines, Minister of Energy. I'm calling the Minister of Mines because he has so many issues. I'm coming from a province where a lot of issues pertaining Mopani. I'll allow my colleagues to talk on that. But really, Minister of Energy, President Hakainde Hichilema, you need to do something. Really, Zambians, this is uncalled for. We cannot be cheering when we're buying units for 500 kwacha. They give you 60 units. How are we going to survive? How are we going to pay our children's school fees? How are we going to take our children to the hospital? How are we going to pay our children's meals? It is uncalled for, unfounded, and I call upon every other Zambian to make a protest. We must begin to protest. This is uncalled for. Where is the money going that the money is being borrowed? You know, so really for me, this is what I just had. I needed to really speak on the issue of ZESCO. Minister of Energy, you need to do something, or otherwise we are on your tag.
Remember, I said so such Pamano, and I think Madam Chairman has elaborated very well. And one catchword and take-home word is human dignity, which is also in Article 8 on our national values. And she has emphasized on that one because the life we are living in Zambia, nothing like when watching Peresha. To have Mamumfi, Ballet to my right, foot they get away from the on one hand. And I think what it is that Amalite Nangwepo is as good as Mumfi because you can't purchase. That's what she's trying to say. And if you can't use electricity in a lot of areas, you can't also buy charcoal and the like. Kupere, but nothing like watching Peresha. So, in short, ebo chikumine na mumfwa watataba kainde chirimoko na wanani Minister of Energy, you pull up your socks because you don't want to just save body and everything will be fixed. So, and up to now, and life is getting worse. Where people are assuring us at we are trying to correct what was none. I don't know if we correct by using more mistakes. At this point, allow me to call upon Honorable Kapiongo to speak to different issues and pick it from where where Madam Charamoshe.
Yes.
I like putting her that way as left. Honorable Tsana, you should also be getting nearer.
Thank you so much, Honorable Fouve. Good morning, our dear colleagues from the media, and welcome to this press briefing. I also, from the onset, would like to just, first of all, express our dissatisfaction as a party and as members of Parliament elected to National Assembly on the Patriotic Front ticket on the way ECZ, Electoral Commission of Zambia, has called the by-elections in Kawambwa. As far as we are concerned, Honorable Nixon Chilangwa still remains an legitimately elected member of Parliament for Kawambwa. However, situation being as it may, we also want to just congratulate the adopted candidates on the Tonse Alliance who successfully filed in the nominations for that by-election. That doesn't mean we won't stop pursuing the legal options that are available to ensure that Honorable Nixon Chilangwa's status is also protected. Because as far as we know, there's been no legitimate declaration of his seat vacant. So we like the caution that our colleagues have taken in participating in the nominations that were called by the Electoral Commission of Zambia. So, and I want to thank the opposition leaders that have seen that working together for the common purpose is the way to go. Honorable Adi Kalaba of CF, who should have been fielding, is also seeing the need of working together. And I think this is on time to say, don't say Uka. What is important is for the opposition to look at the interest of the Zambian people and make sure that even as they come together, our focus should be how do we redeem the prospects of this nation in the interest of our Zambians who are really suffering through the hardships they are going through. That said, I'll just comment on a few things that happened, and I'll start by just commenting on the issue of our colleague, the Honorable MP for Patriotic, Honorable JJ Banda. You do recall that the Speaker did make a ruling regarding the absence of Mr. JJ Banda. What I want to make clear here is that we do not dispute the decisions of the Speaker even when we don't like them. As I speak to you, one of our hardworking members of Parliament from Ambilima is serving suspension. In as much as we don't like that suspension, the Speaker has got powers to exercise within the confines of the Powers and Privileges Act and the standing orders to discipline members of Parliament, all of us. But what matters is the procedure that is used, because for any action that is taken against the member, we have got provisions both in the Act and in the standing orders. So our contestation was that the Speaker should stick to the rules, should stick to the standing orders. We should not start creating situations which are not provided for. such as the ultimatum she was giving as to when the member should be available. All those are catered for. But what is of interest is that in the aftermath of that ruling, we also heard some statements coming from the Honorable Minister of Home Affairs and Internal Security. After that, the Inspector General of Police has also issued a statement. My concern is the manner these statements are coming out. Today, we have been treated to headlines such as the Zimbabwean authorities saying JJ is not in our custody. Honorable JJ Banda is not in their custody. Now, this is where Zambians are asking questions. And for me, I can only describe the manner in which statements have come out as organized confusion and to some extent indiscipline. And if the minister discovers that has been misled, it will be important that he magnanimously deal with those that could have misled him, because the minister depends on the support systems in the ministry. So, to see Inspector General of Police also issuing a statement when he should have had an input in the statement that the minister issued points to indiscipline of the highest order. And I call the minister to ensure that he puts his house in order, so that he should be the one accountable for the statements that are coming from the ministry. He made a statement to the press, and he also further came to the floor of the House and made assurances on the floor of the House. And so we are comforted that that ruling from the Speaker will probably an academic exercise, because now the state have assured the nation that they will make Honorable JJ Banda available through the extradition processes. Now, Zimbabwe is just next door. Zimbabwe is just next door. And here I've seen one media institution that has got presence in Zimbabwe. You should be able to get information on whether, indeed, as we speak now, Honorable JJ Banda is in the cells of the police of Zimbabwe. So that the ruling of Madam Speaker becomes an academic exercise. We're also trying to be helpful to our Speaker, so that we lessen this thing of all the decisions that she makes should be subjected for interpretation in the courts of law. We felt it was a privilege to have her coming from the legal fraternity to be helpful in making sure that the decisions she makes are not subjected to the interpretation of the courts. Because if we can count the number of decisions that have been made, which have gone to the courts of law and she has been found wanting, they exceed 5, 6. And it's not desirable for the institution that has got the mandate to offer oversight functions. We shouldn't be the only arm of government which would be found wanting all the time. So I had one academician speaking and advising us that we allow the process of the people of Patriotic to have their representative back. Yes, sir. What we are just saying is that let's follow the procedures that are set out. I did say all of us have served suspensions. We have not contested those suspensions because we know that the Speaker has got powers conferred on her by the powers and privileges. But those powers must not be abused. And so we were trying to be helpful in saying, Madam Speaker, here, we feel that you have not followed our rules. So I thought I could make that clear. And if indeed Honorable JJ Banda is found wanting, he should be subjected to the punishment through the rules without creating other rules that do not exist. But we shall be waiting with keen interest to see how this drama plays out. The minister makes a statement. and the Inspector General of Police also goes and makes a statement on the same subject matter. How? So the minister at his level should be interacting with his colleagues in the region. I've been in that office and I know how we get information from within the region. It would have just been a phone call to his counterpart in Harare. And even as he was coming, he should have had all this information verified by his counterparts on the other side. Because the danger of giving information which is not accurate related to another country has got implications, diplomatic implications, because neighboring countries have got platforms where we share matters of politics, defense, and security, joint permanent commissions, with laid down communication procedures. So, my prayer is that what the minister informed the nation is accurate. If it's not accurate, he must make sure that those who could have misled him, their heads roll. Because he might be the same one to be facing the brunt. The next matter is the matter which was on the floor today regarding a proposed bill on the mobile money transfer levy, which the Minister of Finance has proposed. It came last year in 2023. Even when we didn't support it, we told them that they were sending the bill to a wrong institution, Bank of Zambia. They didn't listen as usual. And that's what I was reminding them. Now, we cannot be visiting every other year. The only bills that we deal with continuously are money bills. Because every fiscal year comes with its own money bills. Now, they are proposing this bill to now be under the Commissioner General, Zambia Revenue Authority. You see, these platforms that have been created by mobile utility companies, mobile phone utility companies, have helped the unbanked population. They have helped the far-flung areas. I imagine the distances that our people cover in Shwangandu to move from certain areas to the banks. It has been a challenge. But now, you can send a 200 kwacha, you can send a 1,000 kwacha for my widow mother to buy fertilizer through the mobile money. And I'm sure the mobile companies have had a way of ensuring that they pay necessary tax. Now, this bill is seeking, among other things, under the objectives, to provide for keeping of records of operations. All of you, dear colleagues from the media, you have seen how your fellow youths stand from morning to the evening, standing and running after customers. Those young men and women are the ones this bill is targeting. And if you discuss with those young men and women, first of all in the urban areas, they will tell you that maybe at the end of the day, what they make is 20 kwacha, or maybe depending on the scale of transactions. Others are in those villages. So now you are saying, apart from the phone, you have seen them running with the phones, they should have a record, a book. I've now sent 200 kwacha to so and so has just withdrawn. And these are the records that will be then inspected by Zambia Revenue Authority. Where are they going to get capacity if they are failing to correct taxes from the new mining houses that are coming up? The financial intelligence report, the FIC report, points to billions and billions of money that are going uncorrected by ZRA. That's what you find in the recent report. And these are big people that are making too much money. The mining sector. So if you are failing to correct those billions of kwacha, and then you want to target these poor, non-employed youths, what sort of hearts do you have for the people? And you heard me when I commented on this bill, the Minister of Finance could not even give satisfactory responses. Why should we target the poor? They stand the whole day. In fact, even this rainy season, you see them, these young men. Where are you going to find them? They have got no, they don't even have, you have grinded the boots. You have grinded the boots where you probably they could be sitting to write those records you want them to be writing. As you want to levy them from the little that you are making. Government must be responsible. Yes, it's important to broaden the revenue base, but broaden it sensibly. Go and get the revenue from where it matters most. The natural capital we have under the mines is where we should benefit more. But there you are saying, no, we shall wait until they start doing production up to a certain capacity. In the meantime, we are struggling in the energy sector, which should go into those same mines. So, we find this bill misplaced. This bill is targeting the poorest of the poor. And to you, young men and women, now you should start drawing lessons. Because now you are being fixed. This is what is happening. You are now being fixed. Like I've said, those of us who interact with these people, because every day we are sharing poverty. There's so much poverty in our constituencies, and we are sharing poverty, and these are the people we are interacting with every day. And it's the same with every member of parliament, especially those of us who come from the rural area. This is a bill that brought problems. My colleague here, we were together in Accra, Uganda, in Ghana. When these same attempts were being made by the government, people rose and stood their ground, and they succeeded. But here, it's up to you, the youths. If you're not following up on these things, we can only do our part. Then other matter I would like to comment on is the pastoral letter by the bishops of the Catholic Church. We all know that the Catholic Church mother body has always been providing guidance to the nation, moral guidance and spiritual guidance to the nation. This letter has not come out so much in the recent past, and I think the bishops pointed to this fact. Now, what has shocked us is the reaction of some of the leaders from government. We acknowledge the response that came from the government spokesperson, because I think for me, that's how a government should have responded. The minister, government spokesperson, spoke and said, we have received the letter, we are going to study it, and we are going to issue a measured response. That's a normal thing for government to do, because the issues highlighted in that letter are pertinent to the nation. The church is closer to the communities than anyone else. This Catholic Church has been in all the sectors, and so they understand the issues very well. They are in the education sector, they are in the health sector, and they are in the social sector. So you can't doubt their analysis. They have never been partisan. They have never been partisan. And so I was so shocked to see a response coming from one honorable minister responsible for infrastructure, Honorable Milopi. This letter was not addressed to Honorable Milopi. This letter was addressed to government. And therefore, whatever emotions the Honorable Milopi must harbor, he should also remember that despite him being a nominated member of parliament, whose constituency is at State House, He has got a collective responsibility and is bound by the collective responsibility of government. He is not a spokesperson for the president's office, because sometimes we hear him speak like a senior cadre. He is a minister, for heaven's sake. And he must be reminded that when he speaks as a minister, he cannot say, I just spoke as Mirupi, now I'm a minister. No. When a minister speaks, he's speaking a government policy and government position. So he must be told that he should be respectful to the collective wisdom of our bishops. We are not going to tolerate and entertain him abusing our church leaders in the manner he did. He cannot accuse our bishops to be partisan. And you specifically were saying they were praising the PF. Where in this letter did the letter speak about PF? The issues they've raised are general in nature. And I have not seen any page where they are pointing, where they're speaking about PF. They have praised government where they have thought they could praise. And they have pointed issues where they feel there's need for attention. And I'm happy that, Honorable Fube, you have been exonerated, because the motion you brought when you were urging Parliament and urging government to dispute farming inputs according to agrogeological zones, following the weather patterns, this matter has come out in the pastoral letter. So meaning if the bishops have seen that wisdom, so don't feel that you lost on that motion, because the fact that even our shepherds have seen wisdom in saying, let's focus on where we're having rains. Now as we speak, people are still sharing fertilizer in medals. How are we guaranteed that we are going to have production? How? You heard when the minister brought a statement, all the members of parliament across right and left were pointing to the challenges that have culminated the distribution of farming inputs to our small and scale farmers. Viable and poor but viable farmers. So when you start talking about CASP, you are not talking about the poor farmers, because there are very few people that can access input under that program. Yes, we know you have got limitations, and if you can renegotiate, this is a matter you can renegotiate with the International Monetary Fund, because these are part of the conditions. We know, because these are some of the sticking points that we had. So you can't keep FISIP number of beneficiaries the same from 2021, and you are saying we are making progress. How can you make progress? And how can you make change by doing one and the same thing? So, Comrade Dimitor has continued to fail the people of Zambia, because the farming sector has been negatively affected, not only by drought, but by the policies that they're implementing at the ministry. So, we urge government, and if I was with them, I could advise them that this cash for work, which they have introduced, our people don't need that. Yes, our people have got no problem with the social cash transfer, which is a social safety net program intended to alleviate poverty for our poor people. But this cash for work is neither here nor there. Very few people benefit from it, and it's not well structured. And if I can advise them, if they had converted this money to increase the number of inputs, to increase the number of farmers, people, if in Bemba we say, give us the means our people are able to grow food for themselves and food for the nation to sell, excess food. This food cash for work should have been channeled to increase the number of inputs to the farmers. That's free advice. Now, you see the challenge of not listening to others, you end up in a situation where we are. We advise, don't sell the maize that you have found. They sold the maize. What have we ended up doing? Finding forex to import maize which we sold. Filatulanda tumurembo wachipuba. Upwira muri tumfwe. An okra prepared by a foolish person. People will come and test it. Testing until you finish it. Then the person who foolishly prepared start running with an empty pot, looking for something to eat, looking for some more okra. So this is what has happened. We advise our colleagues, you have found food. It takes a lot to accrue those stocks of food. You saw them jumping in our sheds. Here there is maize, and trucks are firing to collect. Now people are waking up in our shanty compound 06 to go and queue up for maize coming from ZNS or is it Zambia Correctional Service, which is also not cheap. That's what happens when you don't plan properly. And you come and lie in that, no, you were selling so that you can pay farmers. Who does that? Today, farmers are, some of them are just getting paid now. After being told that they were going to be paid cash, you supply, you bring maize. So our colleagues in the New Dawn must start doing the right thing. Yes, there's very limited time remaining, but they can try to see what they can do. So Honorable Mirupi finally should stop disrespecting our church leaders, like the one his colleague who called them Lucifers without apologizing. You see, these people, they outlive political cycles. That's the only good thing. And for those of us who are proud Catholics, we understand very well that these people mean well for their flock. And when they speak on behalf of the people, they don't take any partisan line. So, I know that my brother, Comrade Mirupi, has got this propensity of misleading himself and the president. That's why he took the president to Kazungura Bridge and told him that it was a New Dawn project. Openly. But, you know, he should start coming to terms. He likes saying so many things about the other political parties. He's got a small party which has gotten swallowed by UPND. I don't even know whether it has got any structures. So him is an alliance. He should allow others also to have alliances. They've swallowed my elder brother, Dr. Nevas Mumba. I don't know what he has gone with from the share of movement for multi-party democracy. So as they are galvanizing themselves, they should also allow. but they should allow others also to galvanize and exist. At the end of the day, the people of Zambia who gave us the mandate and substituted us and put them there are the final deciders. You can say, no, we are going to stay for 50 years, Mr. Mirupi, 50 years. You say people of Zambia. Who will tell you? Because now the Honorable, I don't want to say much, but I just want to tell the people of Zambia that they are our masters. And whether we abuse the authority that you give us, it's your authority. You decide who to give at what given time. And that right time will come. For those of you in Kawambwa, should the by-elections go ahead, please, you have been starving all this time, and if someone comes to give you something, eat, but appeal to your mind and appeal to your heart. Kamboni ifure aba mutima. Pantu muntu ule kuwepa viratulanda tu kuwepe mbo musheto. Even the dog can tell when you are lying to eat that you have got food by shaking your mouth that you have got food. It will later realize that you are cheating it and it will chase you. What more about people? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I think it was a mouthful statement. And I think when I can hear no, there was nothing like that last time, and then we needed to do that. They need to do this time around. I think the take-home message is one to our youth, especially that the youth are the ones who turned up in numbers, and they turned up numbers to vote so that things can be fixed. I'm told by youth, one of them I thought, no, just set barrier and the job we need. And many of them are in the sector that was first, especially the mobile money. That is what they are surviving on. And that is what they want to squeeze right on the neck, so that the young people there may not trade well, because some of them, it's not even their capital. They have just been employed to learn those goods and stunts so that they may learn and find a living. Apart from that, I think he has also addressed the issues of JJ. That now that JJ is in the hands of the state, and that ultimatum, I don't know where it stands now, because it's the state now that is supposed to bring JJ to Parliament. It's not JJ's to come to Parliament. So now, and then he also talked about the conscience of the nation. Usually, the Catholic Church and many other churches, especially the mother bodies, have been issuing statements to conscientize the nation on different issues. And I think even in colonial times, post-independence and the like, they have been issuing statements to any government, no matter how that government was powerful, to make sure that they also, within the parameters of social justice and social teachings of the church, they air out the views, especially on the suffering of the people, because they are a prophetic voice. And he has lamented on the assault that Honorable Milupi did on the church. But Honorable Milupi should be assured that he cannot attempt, he cannot assault the church that has been standing for a longer period on behalf of the people. And I think government knows that in terms of education and health, especially rural, they are just sharing in terms of caring for Zambian people. And I think there is need that there should be a respected partner in that particular line. He went on to say, like we have seen in a lot of areas, elections in when people are dying of hunger, when people are suffering of hunger, ngakulia elections, elections, if point that you should suffer. Allow me to. Sorry. You know that are by where
you for the state is important push a member when opposition also are commenting if they are getting know them we've that council operation see the government they receive. I would like to colleague help us back. Again, allow me. But if we the adjust of speak of the nation when we make conclusion parliament and we suggested that and the support that gave us able to also whether that people with government of the government to and him. This is going to be funded when we still okay, a small goings on under the we have our partner to a nomination of parliament election. It was not without event. Know that where members of the faces a lot of in those that are and those institutions that are with UPA that life becomes difficult. But we had even one after that solicit again but were program lawyer on thing to control law in terms of nomination lawyer vigilance of those candidates capitulate candidate mentioned even put nomination where UPA officials hope that withdraw that I would brought into at least a few shortly after expecting now for now for you know put issues the other and not to the bear on them draw on behalf of the direction order in the same vein upon the check test that the UPND came in by that was deliberate that the judge the MP who find deliberately man had follow what is now decided to by the issue of got a just that it's a don't even to bear is under the political aid be admitted to when they are pursuing liberty. Since I have convicted, you bureau as a bit in your will keep you and for but include of Kawambo that number parliament agenda the maze if a place them will find and was free and one because of out that has in the issue dated the platform yes to that business and but the power ethnic you know themselves with and such because with even when now the confined being translated as popular and bring draconian pressure in the every court and in this court, apart from the where going many Zambians agree is that Mr. President and ethnic might want to put it to regulate, in a manner that is being subjected by the bishop said has enabled that the prosecution of opposition of government officials or ruling party charges of hate. 70 in their entirety, because they are too vague, they are too broad, they are open to abuse, they have the potential to and undermine the freedom of expression as guaranteed by Article 20 in our Constitution, and clearly designed to target critics of political. The proposed change of government bound to pass our democratic rights, such as that is what the bishop said. Exactly before the committee by the speaker. I want to insist at the time through in timing to amend of the penal code is misplaced. Speech in the president in trying to regulate. We are being called up if trained of Have we means that we can utilize the Committee of Parliament program? I told them that and I no sanctions to do with hate speech, but education, as well as bringing people together. Our national anthem and our motto speak to the nation. How then are we going to achieve the objective of unity if we are going to criminalize interactions between, if we're going to speech in a manner that is being suggested? I think that it should not, but I voice loudly against any agenda that seeks to try committee heading this program, that in there's an attempt to raise the penalty suggested by this country, where you're going to have hate speech 7 years up to 20 years. It's the only country, even Canada, which I was able with the jail term of 3 years. You are punished either by a fine, 3, not more than 3. In Africa, they punish 5 years. Don't believe that such a draconian to the Republic of South Africa, where they have attempted, is the most complex democracy. Such I discovered that publicly punish hate crime, but it's coming from selected who believe that their ethnic groupings are speech are the ones who've been moving more to increase the punishment. The craziest proposal in Nigeria, speech by a jail term, and that if a death results because of propagation of hate speech, there should actually be a death penalty for anybody who dies because of hate speech. Those motions, I need to say, when they were presented in Parliament, they were shot down just upon entry into Parliament. This is how seriously people perceive anybody who would like to enhance punishment for hate speech when it comes to the public. I call upon Zambians to even read through legislations in other countries where you see how they've dealt with hate speech. The best way of regulating hate speech for this Republic of Zambia, especially with what we've gone through since the UPND took power, is to allow a system of cultural education, of trying to allow people to unite, to bring to life what is called unity in diversity in this nation, that we all respect each other as ethnic groupings. We all agree that because of intermarriages that have taken place in this nation for the past 60 years plus, we cannot be regressing by putting into place a legislation that can be abused and targeted at particular individual groupings. It is counterproductive, it is retrogressive, it is not helpful in a democratic society, but most importantly, it has not even benefited from wider stakeholder consultation on how we need to, if there's need for us to amend this law. I think I should end here, Leader of Opposition, and thank you very much for this opportunity to speak.
Thank you so much. I think Honorable Sanga has elaborated on a lot of issues, and I think among them is what does it pay, and what meaning does it carry, where we have removed death penalty. We have also removed the criminal defamation of the president. And then on another hand, we want to increase hate speech to carry a penalty of between 7 to 20 years. When the same country has removed death penalty, the same country has also removed the defamation of the president through section 69 of the Penal Code. And in any case, the Zambia Road Development Commission has got a document that is just awaiting to overhaul their own penal code. Why are we in a hurry? And I think Honorable Sang underscored that freedom of expression is more of a cornerstone of all the national values that we have in Article 8. Constitutionalism mentioned them, and democracy, and so forth. And then, on the other side, we are trying to propose a law that actually steps on the rights of the people to express themselves. And we are going towards election, meaning that whether journalists, political parties, churches, especially that religion has also been included. Religion and region has also been included and duplicated by ethnicity. Now, looking at all this plan, it is just planned about one, and it was conceived longly because the president feels injured about certain things that he even practiced when he was in opposition, when he was just even calling people fools for running an economy and all that. But today he is a person who wants to champion such issues. Apart from that, we have also seen ministers in the same Kawambo where they are holding a by-election, where ministers have said it's a province suffering from poverty of the mind. And that's why they have taken a by-election. We have also heard Secretary Generals of political parties calling bishops loose funds. And have not been arrested, but other people have been arrested. And I think what he was talking about is selective implementation. And as the bishops rightly appointed, the DPP is the one who is supposed to decide which case to prosecute and which one not to. And that has also been maintained in the amendment. Meaning that the norm that has been created, we have seen how people have been denied bail, and we have seen who is in court on hate speech and who is not. The boys who are calling for the former president to be castrated are not in court for that particular hate speech. A person with following. The person who called the bishop a Rusfa is not in court. And those who called the people of Ruapula as suffering from poverty of the mind are not in court, facing the same what? Now the Honorable Sanga said if the same phenomenon is maintained and the same DPP is the one who is going to be separating who to take into, and then you bring 20 years. Can't you consider that 20 years? And we beg you that Zambia does not run around you. It runs around, among the 20 million Zambians. And when you are bringing the law, it should concern all of us. It is not about you. We have heard you to say, "Never change your behavior in Zambia." Who changed your behavior when you are in opposition? No one changed your behavior. No one attempted to change your behavior. Behavior in a political arena. People say, and so long they are saying things within the confines of the law and the right of expression, which is in Article 20, you can't attempt to change the way adults behave and controlling the feelings of the people, as the proposal says, where they are going to self-control. They have developed a calorimeter which is supposed to measure feelings of who produces you feelings and the like. So that now we have a country where we are going to be measuring feelings. We want to acquire that. Leave the Zambians. Let them talk. We are going towards elections. That's a bad law, and it's condemned as such. Having said on that note, I think I would like to call upon Honorable Kafwaya to fire certain things, because his name can fire. He can also fire certain things so that we hear from him. Can you Sokota, and because Kafwaya means fire. So Sokota certain things, we hear how the dues of mines and other things have been done. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Honorable Fube. Indeed, it's a privilege for me to make a contribution. I think in the interest of time, I would like to write on the protocols established already. But just to say that I'm pleased that the media could continue to, to support the cause, and I'm happy for the viewers as well. A few things that I would like to speak about, maybe two things only. But if you allow me, let me just say that as of today, a liter of petrol is 32 kwacha 7 tengwe. Before UPND came into power, it used to be 15 kwacha. So it has increased by 17 kwacha 7 tengwe. That is an increase of 118%. So UPND has increased the cost of the liter of petrol by 118 kwacha since they came into power. The third parties, they promised to reduce that, but it has increased by over 100%. Diesel today is 30 kwacha 11 ingwe. It used to be 13 kwacha. That is an increase of 17 kwacha 11 ingwe. That increase is 131%. According to UPND, this needed to reduce. It was too high, but it has increased 131.6%. Fertilizer, my friends, is now around 1,200 kwacha per 50 kg bag. It used to be 600 kwacha. So it has increased by 600 kwacha. That is 100%. Now, the salaries and businesses for people have not increased by over 100% since UPND came into power. Just the last increase was 200 kwacha, if I'm not mistaken. So you are failing to increase the salaries and business opportunities for the people, but increasing what people need to survive. I think that's very unfortunate. Listening to Honorable Chisanga speaking a while ago, you know, about these despotic laws that are being introduced, I get very concerned. I think for the Zambian people, if you are observing what is happening in your assembly, the budget is under approval. Today, as things stand, you can't even debate ahead. You know, when the Minister of Energy brings the amount that you are approving for them, you can't debate. The minister won't even give them, a policy statement. The minister will just stand and say, I propose an amount of 400 million. And that is it. The amount goes. No debate. You can't question even how the Tazama pipeline has been utilized. You can't talk about why they have increased the petrol from 15 kwacha to 32 kwacha in 3 years. You can't. It just goes. The agriculture minister will come and say, I propose, give me 8 billion. And that's it. You can't ask if they have improved the systems such that they won't be able to refuse audits, such that the FISIP will not be misappropriated. No questions will be asked. So you have now a government which does not want to be questioned. The government which does not want to, to offer explanations to the people. I just wanted to begin on that score and maybe say my substantive submission today is I want to remind UPNG that we still have outstanding issues. That is my first point. We still have a lot of outstanding issues, and I will remind you just maybe about a few. Remember, you have ministers who are being investigated by SEC, and you have hidden their identity. You have concealed their identity. That is not transparency. That is not accountability. So that issue is still outstanding. We, the Zambian people, want to know which ministers are corrupt, which ministers are going for those investigations, so that we can begin to treat them suspiciously. Secondly, we want to remind you that Ron Mwambwa is still sitting in the office of the Auditor General illegally. We have told you that that guy is over age. According to the Constitution, when you are 60 years, you leave that office, you go home. That guy is over 60 years. He himself told the country that he was 63 years at the time, so he must even be 64 or 65 now. So let Ron Mwamba go home. This is an outstanding issue. And you can't have Ron Mwamba, who is an illegal Auditor General, having 2 deputies on acting for 3 years. What type of irresponsibility is this? Please remove Ron Mwamba and make sure that his deputy positions are actually filled so that you make that office effective. Thirdly, I would like to tell you that the issue of those illegal audits which were contracted at Ministry of Finance have not closed. We still have a lot to do with those issues. We still want to hear how government is going to close those issues. And by the way, audit ends up in the Assembly. There is no report that has come to the Assembly from those illegal auditors. So we are still waiting for you, UPND government, to deal decisively and conclusively with that issue. I have to remind you that the issue of the illegal cancellation of hunting licenses has not been closed. And those, for me, are issues that I don't agree with you, and I will never agree with you until we close these issues. I have to tell you that the irresponsible export of maize in order to make the Zambian people suffer is something I'll never agree with you, and as far as I'm concerned, those are still active matters. If the irresponsible export of electricity, when there is no electricity in Zambia, people are suffering. The chair lady for women spoke earlier. She spoke about how expensive electricity has become. Now, you make electricity so expensive, but also unavailable. You export to other countries. Other countries even begin to boast that we are getting 80% of our deficit from Zambia. What an irresponsible government you are, UPND. You need to change. Those, for me, are issues that have not been closed. And the arresting of those civil servants. Those people you arrested, saying they got allowances, some from Auditor General, others from Ministry of Finance. What are you doing now? Some of them, you've taken them back to Ministry of Finance, they are working. You have just failed to reinstate Dick's Chembe. You have failed to reinstate the directors and some directors and the PSS at the Ministry of Finance. You are a bad government, UPND. You are a very bad government. You select people, I don't know on what basis. This one must be punished, the other one should not be punished. You need to change. Those, for me, are not closed issues. You can't pack workers in a transition position for over 3 years. You pack more than 400 people in the holding position, you are paying them money, they are doing nothing. In their position, you have employed other people, and you are paying those people. So you are paying 2 people on 1 position. You are a reckless government. And then you continue saying, no, we are, you actually thrive on being prudent. What type of prudence is that? Paying 2 people in 1 position for 3 years. Irresponsible government. You need to quickly resolve those issues. So for me, those issues are actually open. I wanted to remind the UPND that we have plenty of issues, and I'll stop there. But the list is endless. I have to tell you that. The list is endless. And we'll continue reminding you, if you don't resolve these matters, there is no point at which, personally, I will agree with you. If you don't remove Ron Mwamba, because for Ron Mwamba there's no cure, he has to go. There's no cure. You can't reduce his age. You can't reduce Ron Mwamba to a desirable age. He has to go. So I am sorry. So anyway, I just wanted to remind you, and maybe make a submission on my last concern. And my last concern is on the sale of Mopani. This for me is a big issue. The issue that you must not ignore as UPND government. You must not ignore this issue. The same way, I have to tell you, you should not ignore the transfer of the Lusaka Ndora Dual Carriageway to private people. Because you are transferring. You are transferring that road. Okay? The same way you have transferred shares from Mopani to Delta. You are calling it a wholly 100% subsidiary of IRH. So on the 23rd of February 2024, shareholders of Mopani resolved that 51% of their shares should be sold to Delta. This is the announcement that was given by ZCCMIH on the 26th of February 2024. That on 23rd, that same month, the shareholders sat and unanimously approved the sale of 51% shares from Mopani to Delta, which is a subsidiary of IRH. Now, when we heard about the sale, two questions arose, because we were told by the previous Minister of Mines that Glencore, which used to own 90% of the shares, had left, and the 90% shares were taken by ZCCMIH, making ZCCMIH 100% owner of Mopani. Now, ZCCMIH is a company for the Zambian people. So clearly, the Zambians then owned Mopani 100%. So when we heard about the transfer or the sale of 51%, we asked some questions, because according to the Constitution, number one, you can't sell, you can't transfer, you can't dispose of a major government asset without the National Assembly having a vote on it. You can do that. So we began to ask questions. When did this issue come to the National Assembly? Question number one. Question number two, because the shareholders approved the sale of 51% shares, then we began to think, okay, when you sell shares, you receive money for those shares. So since these shares were our shares as the Zambian people, so as the Zambian people, we must have received some money. And we began to ask the Treasury, how much did you receive for the 51% shares? So that issue was brought on the floor of the House. Now, those two questions could not be answered by government through their minister. So the minister decided to change their established announcement. And when he came to the House, he came and told us that no, there was no sale of shares. Instead, there was an allotment of shares. Very unfortunate, I think questions followed, but the minister, in his usual style, could only, postpone on a number of us who are asking questions. Listen, the minister has changed now. It was not a sale, as was announced, as it is sitting now, or even on the ZCCMIH website. It is now an allotment. So we considered, again, what is an allotment? An allotment of shares is simply the utilization of those shares which are not yet used. So when you have a company, like my older brother, if you have a company, you and I have a company, that company at formation is going to be given what is known as the authorized share capital. That is the maximum we can go in terms of issuing shares, isn't it? But within that authorized share capital, we can decide to use maybe just 25% or 50% or 75%. Then we leave a portion which is unused, isn't it? So if you and me own that company, you and me, my older brother, and then we have shares which are unused, whose shares are they? Are they not our shares?
They are shares. It's authorized share capital. We just didn't allot them.
It's authorized share capital, yes, which has didn't allot that capital to other shareholders or to ourselves.
That's right.
Isn't it? Mm-hmm. So when now we decide these shares now should be used, whose money should it be? Can you say this money is not for you because... It's very interesting how my older brother Kabuswe is thinking these days. It's very...
He doesn't understand it.
So I want to tell my older brother, Minister Kabuswe, that those shares were sitting in the authorized share capital, and those shares belonged to Mopani, and Mopani belonged to ZCCMIH 100%, and ZCCMIH is a Zambian company, therefore the Zambian people owned those shares. So Zambians have a right to the money which you received for selling those shares. So stop saying it's an allotment, therefore there was no. You transferred control, you transferred shares to Delta. Right now the control of Mopani is sitting with Delta. It is irresponsible for you to say there was no transfer. It is irresponsible for you to say because there was no transfer, therefore there was no need for that issue to come to the assembly. Let me tell you, a share entitles a shareholder to the asset. So the fact that the shares have moved to Delta, that asset which is new, that smelter, that concentrator, that mine now belongs to another person. So you have transferred the major asset, sir. I was also very surprised when Honorable Kabuswe said the shares which are owned by ZCCMIH are more valuable than those owned, than those allotted to to Delta. What type of thinking is that? These are all ordinary shares carrying the same value. You come on the floor of the house, my brother, change. I know you are UPND, but change. You can't. Look, abanenu bakasobale bepera ko panse. Not in the assembly. You can't do that. You can't do that. These things we're talking about, some of these matters were said outside of the assembly. But that is the assembly of people, where we must have the highest level of integrity. No, ayama shares yaliko bwino. Twabe pusha bakabuso bushe. Elo mwale ishtisha maine. What was the share price? Well, they jumped around, but kwa isa ka note from somewhere. Answer ya isa. Dishinga. No, $87.33 per share. When you go to the announcement, which the CCMI made, they even boasted that after this transaction, shares soared 11.9% from 42 kwacha per share to 47 kwacha per share. It is there. Number 8, ungolefu kube pobo para shupa para kosa. But wabale mitumo kube pobo fi. Watata na leka ina but it's always tsungeni bwino chefeni ko bufi mwachiramo. Na totera sana.
In the interest of time, first therefore kulanga twazikta chefeni. Yeah, not to from and I think you need to also, yes, you also need to realize that you benefit from taxpayers' money, and you need to save everything equally. You are not there to provide toxicity in the nation, especially when it comes to freedom of expression. We know that this problem we are experiencing now can only come from you and your interference. So, to a papa taichifieni. Lekena abantu bomfresh abantu bari for kulanda olede mwari turasha malali tatutena nikana. And I think let us not paralyze these government institutions into branches of UPND and the extension as such. Let twitch indike no kuichima twitcheme. If into filesa no kuya filaya. So excitement can be short-lived. So if stretch tapano fya chalo, and we have the right to speak. So, if you are going to tubonshe nsale, elo imumule kata kunsale, mule sa disturb insale pa kushileta flow, pata ntube mfwa. Aba chabe ne bala pala pa social media, bala tuweba anga data na truth yani, abe ne ba ponta, abe na ba na kwata right of expression. You have no right to stop us from reaching out to the people, and this is an avenue. So, at this moment, I will summarize later, because there's somebody I just needed to talk to that. I want to call upon Honorable Ndubire before the network is cut, so that he can also speak to the nation, and then I will do the summary later. Honorable Ndubire, sir.
Thank you, Honorable Fube. I'll start by acknowledging the honorable members that spoke earlier. Of course, not forgetting the Fourth Estate, the media, that have been our partner on this journey. I wish to recognize you and thank you most sincerely for the work that you've done so far. Icha kubadilapo, like Honorable Kampiongo pointed out, we have gone to Kawambwa to participate in that election, even when we know that it's a product of a flawed electoral system. It's basically an illegal election. We had no choice because we knew that the UPND, their intention was to frustrate us to a point where we don't participate in all these elections. Senior Counsel George Sanga pointed out there was a stay that we got from the Chinsali High Court stopping that particular election. And ECZ decided to proceed and hold the election, the mayoral elections, even with that stay. The excuse that they gave was that there was a ruling in the Concord on the 15th of October that allowed them to proceed with the election even when there was a stay. But I want to remember that in that same ruling, there was emphasis on the 90-day period. The judges in the Concord say that elections cannot be held beyond 90 days from the time the seat is declared vacant. I want the Zambian people to know that Honorable Chagwa's seat, which is the Kawambwa seat, was declared vacant on the 24th of July, 2024. If you count from that time, we are about 120 days. I would like the Zambian people to appreciate and see the hypocrisy of the ECZ. The ECZ is saying because the timeline provided for in the Constitution is 90 days. That's why the Concord has said even when there is a stay, you proceed because you cannot enlarge this time. From the same judgment, they've picked the part that talks about the stay, and they've ignored the part that talks about the 90 days. I thought that was important. As I talk about Kawambwa, we have gone there out of principle. We still know that that election is being held outside the 90 days that the Concord talked about. Ndefo kutasha mwe bantu bonse mwebo tulinabo mutonse alliance umbrella. For a very long time, my UPND badisa quarter freedom here kuti election, so they could do whatever they wanted. Tuwalikwete wa MP abalea kuma election na matumba fulu na basendenda makuma fio tanka yaba youth to go and spend in those elections. Takwali baku bakopa na nguku bamona. They would literally go and overrun whoever is there and compete against themselves and emerge victorious. So apanomba batonse mwebe na Zambia bonse ngefe twala ndile membership ya bali aba farmer ebo bala ile ukuti fertilizer kwa pa 250. Those are members of Tonse. Mweba Tonse member ba farmer mwali muka wambwa, please let's go and vote on the 20th of December. Mwe misepela mwe wapeli amatanka wa mipoka indalama bambo kula fola ba minister wa UPND, and they are using the same money ukulali pema by elections, turn up in numbers and vote for the candidate the Tonse Alliance Stan Mwansa. Wa Tonse mwe bambo 500 kwacha 60 units, you are members of Tonse, turn up in numbers on 20th of December. umwina Zambia onso ulechula alasanga umutende muli tonse pantu amapate ali muli tonse including the PF bali bombele fintu ifi aletanga tabalanda kunuma ifi alangira pabuta tutu ukuti ipate nipate itanga tabalanda nipate aishibo kuti amakaya bakubantu so imwe batonse mwe bantu bonse mwe balechula mwe balechuchutika mwe misepela mwe balefumye nchito chila bushikumulando wa mashina mkwete. You are all members of Tonse. Ba civil servant mwe bale nukula wa machito umulandufe weishi nafye noko wafya dilwe. You are members of Tonse. Tangile ni muye kuka wambwa pa 20th those that are from Kawambwa pakuti mwingavotela candidate wesu uyoni Danstan Mwansa. I thought this was very important to acknowledge that now we have decided to participate in every election so that we can give the right competition to the UPND. And just as a reminder, Mwebena Zambia, if you saw the recent elections, Mumoniama results for Elefuma, if you get the totals for the opposition, Mushte compare neba UPND wale kwata, the opposition ile kwata more, Badiana Vaya. Yeah. Whether they like it or not now, via numbers do not lie. I want you to go back to the recent elections, mule ya mwanama numbers wako etewa opposition, add them together compared to what the UPND is getting. So it's very clear that the Zambians have made a decision. Zambians have decided that UPND has to go. So with that, I will also just add to the list my young brother was giving a catalogue of things that have been left unattended to. Abantu bale tumama foni bale tinomba fimwe finto fumwa imishe kunuma na nomba ta filapwa yo nili ilali fika pwa. Honorable Kafwaya highlighted some of those. I want to also say that the FIC reports in the coming weeks, we will zero in and look at FIC reports. You remember that there's a report that talked about the $2.8 billion worth of suspicious transactions. We want to zero in and discuss this and find out how far government has gone. There's a report that talked about suspicious transactions amounting to 5.8 billion kwacha. Another one talked about suspicious transactions amounting to 13.5 billion kwacha. And the other one talked about suspicious transactions amounting to 64 billion kwacha. Now, remember that all these suspicious transactions have happened in the past 3 years that the UPND has been in power. This is the UPND, the same UPND government, when they were in opposition. Report under the PF, I think there were suspicious transactions amounting to 2 billion kwacha. They went to town, including President Hakainde Hichilema. They called us thieves, they called us criminals, because the FIC report reported suspicious transactions worth 2 billion kwacha. Now, if you look at the amounts that I've highlighted in the reports just in the past 3 years, it's evident that clearly we have a wrong government in power. It's here to loot national resources. Because clearly $2.8 billion worth of suspicious transactions, and government is quiet. If government could get excited over 15 houses in Ibexhill and one house belonging to a former minister, a few buildings here and there. A farm somewhere in the village. If they could get excited with those. The question that I keep asking, why is government not excited over these transactions? Like $2.8 billion, 5.8 billion kwacha, 13.5 billion kwacha, and 64 billion kwacha. Why isn't government not excited? The DPP and everybody else, why are they not excited? Could this be the reason why we still do not have a board at SCC? Is this the reason why we don't have a substantive the DG at SEC? Could this be the reason? Because clearly, if there was so much excitement over 2 billion kwacha and a few buildings, there should have been more excitement in these figures that have been reported by the FIC under the charge of President Hakainde Hichilema. I also want to remind the Zambian people, in addition to the list that Mr. Honorable Kafoya has, we will pursue the corruption at Ministry of Health, especially the transaction that involved $100 million. We know that SCC is sitting with letters that were authored by ministers to contractors in that particular transaction. We want to follow up on those matters. We also want to follow up on the matters that under Ministry of Agriculture that involve the purchase of fertilizers. Fertilizers worth $30 million were purchased for over $50 million, within the country. We also want to follow up, to make a follow-up on the concessions that were given to mining houses. You remember we have said that corruption will not only involve the giving or receiving of bribes, but it looks at putting private interest over and above public interest. And this may come in form of legislation, policy, and administration. So we have question marks on the concessions that Honorable Msokotwane gave to the mining houses. So want to enlarge the conversation around this, especially that 3 years down the line, we haven't seen the real commitment to these mining houses ramping up production to 3 million tons as earlier reported. If anything, we have seen that the production by these mining houses has actually gone down. We also want to pursue the corruption in the energy sector. You remember a number of allegations that arose, ranging from letters authored by ministers in the procurement of fuel, things to do with the usage of the pipeline and Indeni. So these are matters that we'll be pursuing in addition to the ones Honorable Kafoya pointed out, because the Zambian people have taken us back to say we can't leave these matters unattended to. And remember, all these matters that we're highlighting have happened in the last 3 years that the government, UPND government, has been in power. We owe, and there will never be a time that will support corruption. But I want to take you back and just make a simple comparison. You remember that in the 10 years that the PF, there were 3 major things that were raised, or major cases that were referred to as corruption, that end us all those names, thieves, Wakawalala, Masholi, and so on. It was 1, the fire tenders; 2, the ambulances at Ministry of Health. What was the third one? The 48 houses. If you go back, go to the answer, you check that these were the 3 things they consistently pointed out in that 10-year period. Now look at what has happened under the UPND. So if you wanted to know what a corrupt government looks like, ask who's Masholi, who are criminals, ask us. We may just give you an idea of who these people may be. So all these things that we're talking about have happened just in the past 3 years. So we also want to talk about the corruption that is happening in the procurement of feeder roads involved in that. Aren't you surprised that suddenly there's total silence? The individuals that came on the floor of the House and were accusing members on the left about giving themselves expensive contracts, feeder roads, are suddenly quiet. So we're wondering what is going on. There are a number of feeder roads by Ministry of Local Government. Or maybe, Honorable, could it be in line with that saying that you don't talk with food in your mouth? Because they're not talking. You can't hear these members talking. Yeah. So we want to come and look at one of the issues that was that road contracts under the PF were contracted expensively. We want to find out now, because I remember, my memory serves me right, roads under the PF were between 800,000 to 1 million kwacha per kilometer. We know that there are roads under the UPND now, feeder roads, that are going up to 2.5 million kwacha per kilometer. And the people that were coming on the floor accusing the PF to have been awarding themselves expensive road contracts are totally quiet now. So we are going to, in the coming weeks, we will tackle these topics. And of course, we want to speak on behalf of the youths. I'm sure that you have seen on social media, the youths are very worried that the tankers that were allocated to them a few years back were repossessed by Ministry of Youth and Sport, and some of those tankers even where they wrote the names of cooperatives, they've actually painted those sections, and these tankers are moving every day. About who's benefiting. But we know the individuals that are getting money from these fuel tankers are in government. These are individuals that buy elections with cargo pants full of money coming from fuel tankers. And they've even given them names, because they are doing this with the blessing of their boss. Their boss is aware that the youths are crying every day. They were recently called for a meeting for this money. So we are going to expose the corruption, around fuel tankers and that. Meanwhile, Comrade Milupi, I think Honorable Kampiongo did a good job. Comrade Milupi, as you know, is the only non-member of ADD. Non-member of ADD, but he's also a Minister of Infrastructure. Yeah, so sometimes the positions that he takes, are of grave concern, really. He's my big brother, but I think he needs to tone down, even when he wants to attack the priests. So I want to redirect his energy. Comrade Milupi, are you aware that there is no consultant to supervise the works on the dual carriageway? Comrade Milupi, instead of you insulting the priests, go to the dual carriageway and go and find out that the contractors are working without a consultant. We know very well that, under our laws and policies, you could not have a contractor carrying out major works like the ones under the dual carriageway. We're asking questions, Comrade Milupi. Who is certifying the works on the dual carriageway? Who is certifying the quality of materials that are being employed? Questioning the capacity of the two contractors. I know the two contractors that are there. But it's a consultant to certify the materials, the quality of the materials, and indeed the works that are being done. Who is ensuring that the contractor to the proposed designs? Remember that the price of that contract is directly related to the design. And the design dictates what materials in what quantities will be used. So, Comrade Milupi, we'll be following up this matter, but leave the men of God alone, go to the dual carriageway, and tell the Zambian people why, to this end, there's been no consult on the Ndola dual carriageway. And we know, Comrade Milupi, that you have the full knowledge of this particular position. The question is, why has Comrade Milupi decided to be talking about the priests and not talk about the job that has been given? He superintends, he abandons and leaves major works to be carried out without consultants and decides to go and, postcon on our priests. Go to the Ndola dual carriageway and come and tell the Zambian people why there's no consultant. EIZ, we're also calling upon you. EIZ, you owe the Zambian people an explanation. Why are you not making a statement on why there's no consultant on that particular road? We know that you have moved in swiftly to stop local contractors from proceeding with works for as long as there's no consultant on site. If there's no resident engineer, the works cannot proceed. Why have you left that major project to proceed without a consultant? So these are some of the issues that we have with colleagues like, Honorable Milupi, who have decided to go and speak against the priests when the job that they've been given, the job description, in that particular road and not where he's been, putting his energy. Countrymen and women, you are aware that when President Hakainde Hichilema declared that drought a national disaster, Honorable Kafwaya, Member of Parliament for Lunte, asked very difficult questions. Firstly, his contention was that the declaration was premature because there was no data, there were no statistics, there was no information upon which to base that declaration. Yes, if we have a disaster, how much help do we need? How much money do we need to go through this disaster? So, however, later they came back and gave some statistics. We were later told that the government was importing 650,000 metric tons from Tanzania. I want the Zambian people to know that to date, only 18,000 metric tons have come. We want the Minister of Agriculture for the Zambian people and tell us why only 18,000 metric tons have arrived. There were a lot of gymnastics and machinations earlier. They told us about one mining house that was going to transport the maize, one PS saying it was going to be free of charge, the minister saying there was a cost attached to it. From that point, as your representatives, we knew there was going to be something wrong. So, to date, this maize has not arrived. We want to find out why hasn't this maize arrived. Because for all we care, very soon we'll start harvesting fresh maize. That maize will go in the shade, it will go on the market. And there will be no one to tell us a story about the 650 metric tons. So, we want to call upon the Minister of Agriculture to tell the Zambian people why there's only 18 metric tons that have come. It's very important because most of the donors that donated towards this genuine cause, the money they were donating is coming from the taxpayers. So we have to take responsibility and ensure that even the money that were given by donors is properly utilized. Remember, we have said corruption will come by way of legislation, administration, and policy. We are smelling a rat already in that procurement of maize from Tanzania and the movement of the maize into the country. So next week, we will come with more details on this transaction. But we've given a prayer to the minister to be able to say something before we address the nation on what is happening regarding that maize. The other sector of concern really is the health sector. You know that it's not very long the procurement of medicines from Egypt, the 61 containers and so on. Now, if you look at what the government is trying to amend the ZAMSA Act, the amendment is for purposes of legislative. They want to legislate corruption through the amendment of the ZAMSA Act. Basically, some of the proposals, they want to remove power from the board and posit it in the minister. The minister should be able to act as an individual to procure what they're calling emergency procurement. We want to call upon cooperating partners to look seriously into are enacted into law. I particularly would want to call upon the U.S. Embassy, because the U.S. are our major funders. They need to take specific interest to the proposed amendments to the ZAMSA Act. You can imagine that the PF, Edgar Chagwa Lungu, saw the need to create or to put most of the functions, because from medical stores into ZAMSA, some of the functions to do with procurement of drugs and others were moved to ZAMSA for one reason, so as to depoliticize the procurement of drugs. Realizing that the minister and other people have many other things to look at, specifically on procurement, storage and distribution of drugs, we put that under ZAMSA because experts in those fields will actually sit at ZAMSA. The UPND government wants to reverse that. They want those powers to go back to the minister, where the minister should be able to make emergency procurement of drugs and make key decisions, direct or give what you may term as to the board, so that the raison d'etre, the reason to be for setting up ZAMSA, are defeated by putting powers under the minister. Go against these proposals. And like I said, I want to call upon our cooperating partners, and specifically I'm singling out to take specific interest. You may be interested to know that from the time the US government started supporting the health sector, $1 on this country. And we want to be able to go back to them to say, can you please look at this? Because if you look at what happened, as we actually procured by a minister through some flawed procurement process. So what they want to do through the new act, the act that will allow what happened in Egypt to be a normal procurement process, where a minister can take off with a and call a few friends to the hotel and deliver cash to them, and then 61 containers come, and then nobody knows where the garage. They want that to be legislated in the act. So Philadelphia, where the minister by then Dalama, okay, outside the normal procurement system, no kuna shoku Egypt. Fila watu wale pitafi ukawata kwa pharmacy wako ukukwaliva waleta abantu bane nasa mfwa ama drugs. Uyasaba ni nkwata kwa box, they procure into 61 containers, totally outside the normal procurement system. So those containers came because they did not follow the system. Nobody, and because the minister and the staff were dealing with the suppliers of these drugs, the people that consigned those drugs and the cost were not attended to. No, there was no money for clearing of containers and so on because it was outside the normal process. That's how those at the garage. Now, what they are trying to do, the UPND government want to legislate to make what happened to the 61 containers normal. We want to say no. Can we leave ZAMSA to operate freely under the Act? Because when we are talking about drugs, we're not talking about things like maize or groundnuts. You can't trade with drugs like normal or ordinary commodities. You need experts. Expertise is required, and the expertise may not reside in the minister's office, as it were. So we can't leave out the experts at ZAMSA and take that power to the minister's office. So we want people to take a lot of interest. Like I said, corruption may come by way of legislation and administration. So what we are seeing, the attempts to amend the ZAMSA Act is pure corruption. They want to, because the minister, they propose to give the minister so much power that he can even give certain directives to the board. Basically, he becomes ZAMSA, and everything that he says goes. He can pick up $10 million and go to Egypt to buy. The one that knows the price is the one, is a tender committee, is everything. So that is pure corruption. The cooperating partners, please take interest in this matter. We are very worried, and we will keep an eye. And of course, this is one of the things that we thought that, we needed to talk about so that we can stop them in their tracks before they go very far. And just received, this is some very sad news. The Registrar of Societies has resigned, citing reasons of receiving illegal instructions. So the UP not anything when it comes to illegalities. This is just received now. I want to repeat, I've received some sad news. The acting Registrar of Societies has resigned. Anaka, because they're receiving. It would be wrong to suspect that they may have been given wrong instructions so that they affect a nomination. Yeah. So again, I think as a country, we are on a very. I also want to call upon other cooperating partners. I'm aware that the American government, President Donald Trump, is taking initiatives, to warn certain African countries on the mistreatment of the opposition. I want to make a call that should be extended to this country, because look at how many opposition political leaders are in prison today, jailed on flimsy grounds, trumped up charges. How many are taken to the courts? It's unprecedented, has never happened before. I'm appealing to the American government that they must extend their eye to see what is happening in this country. How the democratic space is shrinking every day, how is no longer guaranteed, and to the extent that this government would like to amend the penal code in order to punish the opposition. So one of the reasons, like Councillor Chisanga said, this amendment to Section 70 is meant for the opposition. We have over 5 people at Cabinet Office in holding positions. So President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND do not want us to ask the reasons why those 70, because if you take interest and look at the 500 names that are at Cabinet Office, there's a golden thread, there's a pattern that you're going to establish. So when you establish that pattern and ask, you should go in for 20 years. I want to repeat that. If you ask what is happening at Cabinet Office and the names that have been put on suspension, to ask and say, look, Article 259 is very instructive, that those that have been charged with the responsibility to make appointments must take into account regional diversity, gender, among others. You'll be speaking within the law, but the fact that you mention names to say Kafuaya, Chisanga, Fube, why is it that these are the only names that are repeating themselves? You will be taken in for 20 years. That's what President Hakainde Hichilema is trying to achieve, to ensure that we can no longer speak to the ills that the UPND government is perpetrating. So we want the US government to not to leave Zambia out. As you begin that are breaking, that are going against the guaranteed rights of citizens, please Zambia today, so that we can have an opposition that can operate freely. We have citizens that enjoy the rights that have enjoyed over the past years. Bane muchiwemba tutira twamuli samfwe okusala kanshi mkoina totela sana bafuve for this opportunity.
In summary, I would just like to say that the two last speakers talked about different issues. And I think among the issues that they did address, Honorable Kafuaya even hinted on how we are carrying out the budget scrutiny. If you go and read as the media in Article 63, you find that Article 63A, B, and C stipulates of how the budget is supposed to be scrutinized, and it's quite arrogant on that point. And where we are not even scrutinizing figures, even today, the speaker, the chairperson, or just the voters passed, and I don't know if that qualifies to be scrutiny. Further, they did talk about that have been put. The issues of those that have been put on at cabinet, who are more than 400, and I think that is a shared concern, where the same government that is preaching frugality and financial prudency has gone to abuse the same values that they stand on. I think they have also addressed the issue of the mine, that you are busy following what was usually what was later, and that someone has decided to put kubika kofio to Wishinaka wire fence, and it has become 9 million. That has been invested in. $4 billion has gone into that mine, and you are blind to that reality. I think the leader of the opposition also did address an issue of how ECZ has ignored the reality that the judgment they are referring to has specifically talked about one thing, that you cannot realign the 90 days. You cannot also extend the 90 days. But ECZ has ignored that. They have only gone on the part that and they have to go ahead with the by-election when the 90 days is actually busted and see. I think ECZ has been warned that let it stick to go to legal processes. Why is that now some because you cannot even implement the electoral process of Zambia, number 35 of 2016, because that is what you are supposed to implement. You saw you interpreting Article 52 and we watched you. You know that electoral bodies get involved in the country. And I think today's call is that stop entertaining illegalities. At even what point, boss, I can ask, at what point did the Electoral Commission get connected to Cap 119 of the Societies Act? Because by Electoral Commission, mwalingo kushima candidate, pala pena wale chita file in, mwashibe li ladi at national, new Congress Party wale chita participate in my elections. Because even when you hear from the media, at what point, and already the number equipped na print out to come and present, at what point, and which law permits you to do that? From the Registrar Society to present to the candidate. Which law permits you to do that? In the whole electoral process. And where are you getting these powers? Now, Mkwataka print out from all sorts of none. Nama laws no let's interpret. No that consultation. So at this point, Balandati, Ngosawa Mwana no Kutashani, no Kwimbokose. We have also tackled the issues of pet corruption and the like. Kurifimba like Bakafwa Balandirepo. Corruption is in three forms that we know it. There is pet corruption, there is grand corruption, and institutional corruption. All these forms of corruptions are occurring. And I think that Honorable Munduvire did sum up with the issue of importation of maize. That Mwalan 50 metric Mwaleta 18 metric tons. Kushiele 432 ya vena Zambia badelore. For 532 metric tons. That is a call. But I think we also need to continue calling on the Electoral Commission. You are a neutral referee, but you have become the Alpha and Omega in Zambia. You are the law and order unto yourselves, trespassing in all areas. And I think we would like to call to you that Muyamba Kwangali la Registrar Society Cap 119, Ukoto Amfa Studies design by Mayo, but I'm acting registrar. Yes, at very late hour. And even the pressure of impunity by those that think that they are controlling the steering of authority should stop. I am institutions. And when we have found them, we have found the legislature, we have found the judiciary, we have found the 1 point we politicians will leave. Let us to operate the way they are supposed to operate. And on that note, unless the media have got any query, the man in charge of this area has come to remind us, I think, of winding up. If the media has got any query, we need to ask, and if there is none, by electoral commission to awekesha apo chemeni zamda te yenu to. We know a lot of cadres have taken over that institution, but you should know that you are supposed to be neutral referees. By electoral commission of because ama institutions of governance, you are the ones who created the legislature. In fairness, you are the one appointed by the legislature. So you should realize your great role and critical role that you play. Don't think of the Zambian laws.
Thank you.